Well, hello there. What's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. And in today's video of Know Before You Go, we're gonna discuss some of the things that you should know before you go to Howl-O-Scream, and guess where? SeaWorld, San Diego, California. Stay tuned. So SeaWorld Howl-O-Scream is actually going to be broken down into two different segments. The first segment is going to be kind of like the more kid-friendly version, where little kids will dress up in their outfits and they will go around the SeaWorld park doing trick-or-treating, which is just super cool because when you actually go to SeaWorld and then you see these little kids enjoying trick-or-treating in a safe environment, how much more better can that get? And the second part of the Howl-O-Scream is going to be the more, I would say, adult-friendly, scary area. So if you go to SeaWorld during the daytime, you're able to see animal presentations and shows like dolphins and orcas and whales and all these other type of exhibits. Whereas if you go during the nighttime, during these very specific nights for those event-themed nights, you'll actually be able to see SeaWorld in a completely different light, pun intended. So if you've never been to SeaWorld, a lot of the daytime activities are going to be roller coasters. Yeah, I said roller coasters at SeaWorld. There are going to be obviously food, arcade, and there's just going to be different events there. So it's a very family-friendly theme park. And if you haven't gone, or maybe if you're wanting to go, I made a video about that. So stay tuned and click on the video description below, which is going to show you what you can do at SeaWorld during the daytime. So shows are going to be present in SeaWorld during the daytime and the nighttime. The shows and theaters that are not animal shows and presentations during the daytime are going to be more just generic SeaWorld shows. So you might get something about pirates, or you might get something about, you know, the life of a penguin type thing. Whereas the show at night, they're all going to be Halloween themed. And so if you stick around in this video, you're actually going to see some of the shows that were presented to us for that Halloween night. So I do want to put a disclaimer out there and state that because SeaWorld has their own proprietary music for their shows and their scare zones and whatnot, when I'm showing the segments and the shows in this video of the SeaWorld events, I will not have any audio because YouTube will copyright me. And if YouTube copyrights me, then you're not going to be able to enjoy my video. So just kind of a give and take there. Also during the daytime in SeaWorld, you are able to do things outside of shows and presentations like roller coasters and regular coasters. And so some of the rides at SeaWorld, like let's say Manta, go do the flips and the twists and the gravity-defying antics, whereas some of them are going to be more mid-range, where it's not going to be as intensive as a flipping roller coaster. So that's enough about the daytime SeaWorld portion of this video. If you want to know more about the daytime activities in SeaWorld, check on the video description below for SeaWorld Part 1, and that's going to give you the daytime activities. So now let's go ahead and fully transition to the nighttime activities for SeaWorld's Howl-O-Scream. Starting off with the decorations. So in the daytime, SeaWorld is just this beautiful park where you're able to see fish decorations, you're able to see just really nice landscaping and just everything around. But at the nighttime, all of those decorations are kind of covered up with spooky things. So you'll have like fog machines, you'll have scare zones, there are designated haunted houses, and then also you're going to be able to get theme-specific restaurants, bars, and food that you can enjoy as an adult while you're perusing around the SeaWorld nighttime event. There's going to be a lot of walking. So if you're going to be participating or enjoying the SeaWorld Howl-O-Scream, make sure you wear some tennis shoes or some shoes that are comfortable, because the park is going to make you walk from point A to point B to get to those haunted houses. And do know that while you're walking around the park at night during the Halloween Howl-O-Scream event, some of the regular park areas that aren't doing any Halloween themed events will be closed to the public. You'll actually see barriers, and that just means that you have to take a different route. So back to decorations, you'll just kind of see them scattered around the park. During the daytime, it doesn't have an effect, it's just kind of cool decor, but at night, when the sun goes down and the lights turn on and the fog machines are all around you, it really adds to the vibe, it really adds to the spookiness. So now let's talk about a certain type of spookiness at the SeaWorld Halloween Howl-O-Scream events. Wow, that's a tongue twister. And so there are going to be designated scare zones inside of the San Diego theme park. And I want to give some kudos to those people who are dressing up in the costumes and putting up the makeup. Maybe they're wearing stilts. And I want to say they truly put on a show. So these scare zones, if you're not familiar with a scare zone, they're going to be designated around certain areas of the park. And so while you're making your way from point A to point B, let's say from Haunted House 1 to Haunted House 2, and so on and so forth, you're going to be walking through the scare zone, which is going to most likely have a foggy area, most likely have some type of spooky music playing, and then you're going to be tracked down by a scare tactic individual. So some of these scare tactic people are just going to be spread around those scare zones. So you'll see some of these scare tactic people in the bushes, you'll see them in dense fog areas, you'll see them hiding behind buildings and just very specific areas. And so not every area inside of the theme park that is going to be participating in the Halloween event is going to be a scare zone. And so you won't have to be on your toes wondering if someone's going to jump out and scare you 100% of the time. And then there are going to be times where the scared person is going to jump out and you're going to be like, whoa, that really scared me, my nephew. So the Halloween Howl-O-Scream is a very event-specific time of year. So you're not going to see the Halloween Howl-O-Scream event in, let's say, February. You're gonna see this Howl-O-Scream event in SeaWorld San Diego in late September to early November. And it really just depends on the date, so that can change from year to year. But this year, in 2024, we went in late September and we went on the day it opened. So the ticket admission is going to be broken down into two different areas. You have the regular daytime admission, which is going to grant you all of those daytime access and accommodations. And then you will have to buy a separate ticket if you are going into SeaWorld for the Howl-O-Scream event. And so because the Howl-O-Scream event is specific to a time period of the year, they may be a little bit different, maybe more expensive or a little bit discounted, depending on when you do buy those tickets. So for me and my family, we did both the daytime and the nighttime, and it was probably the best few $100s that we spent all year. So before you actually gain entrance to the SeaWorld Howl-O-Scream event, there are going to be little signs that are posted everywhere, and they're essentially going to be saying no bags, no purses, no type of satchel that can carry anything around, and that's for safety purposes. So if you're trying to bring a snack in or a sneaky adult beverage in, that's not going to happen because they will search you at the gate. In regards to food, the SeaWorld company thought about that. There are going to be event-specific restaurants and bars and little walking vendors that walk around that sell you these blood bags or syringes that you are able to buy food and drinks from. However, I do want to put a disclosure out there that those vendors who are walking around with coolers that are selling the event-themed blood bags or Jello shots, they are adult drinks. So please don't let your kids try to trick you into thinking it's just a regular Jello shot. So now let's talk about the haunted houses. So the haunted houses and the San Diego Howl-O-Scream Halloween events, that is truly a tongue twister. These haunted houses are gonna be posted around the actual theme park. And so during the daytime, these haunted houses are naturally not going to be active. They're actually kind of walled off and you can't go into that area until the actual night event starts. But then once the night event starts, if your main goal is to go to these haunted houses, I highly recommend that those are the first things you should do because the lines get pretty ridiculously long. So I believe in the San Diego theme park, Now don't quote me on this, but I believe there are 5 or 6 haunted houses. Unfortunately for us, we were only able to do 3 because the lines were just so long and we had other shows that we wanted to attend. So we only did 3 haunted houses, but they were probably the best themed haunted houses that I have ever been to. So keep in mind that I like Halloween. I've gone to many haunted houses at many theme parks in my past, but the ones here, they're actually just better. The actors are better, the decoration is better, the sound effects are better, the smells, the fog, I mean, just everything is better. And I don't know if that's because the weather was better or because I was in California. I don't really know, but I do recommend that if you want a good scare, then you should go to these Halloween haunted houses inside of SeaWorld.
Please, please, come back. You have to get me out of here. Please, please, they're gonna kill you. You're gonna
So if your main goal is to go to these Howl-O-Scream events, specifically in San Diego, I can't attest for the other parks that are participating in this, you do want to make sure that you have to make a choice. When you're buying your tickets for the Howl-O-Scream event, are you going to buy a regular ticket or are you going to buy a VIP ticket? So as I mentioned, the haunted houses are going to fill up pretty quickly. So if you're going to go to these events and you're targeting those specific haunted houses specifically, and you don't want to have the wait line, go to those first and you're going to have a reduced wait line to get through the haunted house. Whereas if you pay for the Howl-O-Scream event ticket, then you're able to fast track your way through these haunted houses. So while the masses are going to be waiting 30-45 minutes to get through a 3-minute haunted house, if you have the VIP ticket, you pretty much jump to the front of the line and go right through. And so I'm not sure of the prices. I didn't buy a VIP ticket, but I do know that I was a little bit sour as I was sitting there waiting for my turn to go into the haunted house, where I saw like these other random people just kind of jump in front of me. And so again, it really depends on how deep your wallet is, and then it really depends on what you're willing to pay for. And also, are you there to just have a good time, or are you there to just knock out these haunted houses? You choose your evil, and then let me know what you did in the comments below. So the 3 haunted houses that we were able to enjoy was the Deathwater Bayou, the Simon's Slaughterhouse, as well as the 3D Maze, which is going to be the Circus of the Damned. So amongst the 3, Deathwater Bayou was definitely my favorite, mainly because the scenes, the smells, the things that you're walking on, the people, the actors, the performers, the sounds, the music, the fog machine, it all just culminated really well together, and it just really made that haunted house just the best experience of the night for me. The second haunted house, which I really liked, which was different from what I was expecting, is going to be the 3D Maze. And so the 3D Maze, or the Circus of the Damned haunted house, is actually going to be not quite what you would expect, and it's not a bad thing. So if you've ever watched a 3D movie in the theaters, you are going to put 3D glasses on, and the same thing is going to be said to be true for the 3D Maze. So as you are about to enter the 3D Maze, the Circus of the Damned, you're going to put these 3D glasses on, and then you're going to walk through a maze. And so the maze isn't actually going to ask you to get lost and figure your way out. You're going to stay on a specific path, and then eventually you're going to get out of the maze. But the cool thing about this 3D Maze, the Circus of the Damned, is the fact that things are going to pop out at you. The performers and the actors and just the people who are going to be doing the jump scares, they're just going to be wearing things that are going to really appeal to your sense of sight. And while you're wearing their 3D glasses, you're going to have an enhanced perception of things jumping out at you. And then my least favorite haunted house of the night is going to be Simon's Slaughterhouse. There's nothing really wrong with Simon's Slaughterhouse, it's just not spectacular. It has the generic plastic mannequins that have unsightly things that happen to them, and there's a lot of fake liquids that are being kind of dripping down from these plastic mannequins. the fog and the allure of it wasn't as good as the 3D maze or Deathwater Bayou, because I could kind of see where I was going, and that allowed for me to be kind of psychologically prepared for any of the jump scares. So now let's talk about live entertainment. So earlier I mentioned that there are going to be places in scare zones. There's going to be like little shows on the sidewalk where the crowd is going to ask you to participate and do tarot card readings and things like that. Whereas the actual live shows, they're freaking amazing. So like I said earlier in the video, I can't play the music from the actual show in this video because of copyright potential, but do know that all of the music that is played in these shows are live. I mean, you actually have people playing the guitar, you have a live drummer, you have live actors and performers. The singing is top notch, where these people are actually singing. It's not just recorded somewhere. So these live shows aren't really that long. They are about 15 minutes long, maybe 20 minutes at max. But ultimately you can expect a pretty grand show because they're going to have the fireworks, they're going to have the steam machines, the lighting and the music, and then again, just the general crowd immersion for when you are watching them perform on stage. So at the end of these live shows, make sure that you give the performers kudos, or make sure that you give them a round of applause, because while it seems like just a 15-minute show to us, the people who are watching it, it's days, weeks, months out of these performers' lives to train and perfect this show for this very specific event in Halloween. So I'm sure they will appreciate it if you give them a round of applause or you clap at the end of each of their events. So if you decide to go through the scare zones, or maybe you're deciding to go to the Halloween shows, or maybe you're deciding to just hit each of those haunted houses, you're not going to be disappointed. Mainly because the crowd engagement that the SeaWorld employees and staff for the Halloween event are just top notch.
Where's your owner? That thing belongs to you? And you love it, I assume. And you would prefer she keep both of her hands? Then why do you come to these things if you don't expect to lose something? Shoot. Where was my runner-up? Ah, this one, come.
So this is like the second or third time that I've given kudos to the performers and actors, but that's just how good they are. They really want to make you feel immersed, and they really want to try and get you to get that scare out of you. As with anything in 2024, if you wanted to know a little bit more about SeaWorld's events and what they have planned, you can always go over to their website or go and download the app on Android or iOS to keep up to date with the pricing, the events, the schedules, the shows, and it's just really helpful to really plan your trip around those particular events through the app and through the website. And as always, to help you out, I have put the SeaWorld website below in the description box, as well as the Apple and Android link to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. So as we talk about crowd engagement and scare zones and haunted houses, you should know that these actors, these performers, they can't actually touch you. They can't actually be aggressive to you, as in bring you physical harm. They may cause you a little bit of mental distress and maybe psychological harm for the rest of the night or whatever. But during the actual events, these people with chainsaws or these people that are dressed up, the performers, they can get close to you, but they can't touch you. And that is going to be flipped around as well, is if you're walking in a scare zone and you're trying to spook one of the spookers, you should not and cannot touch them, just because you don't want that type of situation to be in your hands. So if you're going to be walking around and you see a guy with a chainsaw chasing you, they can get really close to you. They can rev up that chainsaw, they can yell and scream and whatever, but they're going to get close to you but not touch you. Again, it's all an intimidation act. So the more that you participate in the scare zone areas, the more fun you're going to have. Everyone likes to have a little bit of a jolt or scare every now and then, and in this safe environment, this is the perfect place to do so. The patrons and the performers are all going to enjoy themselves while you're walking through these scare zone areas. And if you want me to be fully honest, the scare zone people typically don't target the men of the group. They typically go after the children and then the women next. And so I don't know if that's some level of sexism or whatever, but I noticed that these scare performers were going after my nieces and nephews and my girlfriend more than they were coming after me. And I guess it's because they knew I was a guy. I don't know. So now let's talk about the roller coasters and the rides at these Halloween SeaWorld events. And so the first thing we want to know is that not every ride or coaster is going to be opened during the event. There will be some that are opened back up. However, they are going to close most of the rides, most of the coasters down, so that way some of the people can still ride rides and then some of the people can still ride coasters, but don't expect 100% of the rides or the coasters to be available to you during the night event. And so the same thing is going to be said to be true for those animal events as well. So the dolphins, the orcas, the whales, the penguins, the walruses, the sea turtles, all those other animal events, they're not going to be open during the night event. And so it's okay because SeaWorld has you covered. So because those animal shows are closed down during the night event, the Halloween shows start up. So as you're walking through scare zones or you're just walking through different parts of the park, you're going to see people in places that are going to really call for crowd immersion and crowd engagement. There are going to be people who are trying to do tarot card readings. There are going to be music. There's going to be actual shows on the stage. And so it's really, really gauged to just help you feel like you're in a massive party. So now, if you made it to this part of the video, we're gonna go over the 5 know before you go tips before you go to SeaWorld Halloween. Tip number 1, make sure you're not bringing a bag into this Halloween SeaWorld event. There are exclusive and explicit rules that state that no one should be wearing a bag, a purse, any type of satchel, or a book bag in order to keep the patrons safe and happy. Tip number 2 is going to be making sure that you know that the Halloween event is broken down into 2 events. The first part is going to be for more kid-friendly, where the kids are going to be allowed to go trick-or-treating and walk around the park and experiencing some smaller Halloween spook scares. Whereas the second part is going to be more for the adults, where you're going to get the full experience of people jumping out at you. So just be mindful of when you take your kids there and who the people are that you're going to be taking. Tip number 3 is knowing that even though the park is going to close down really quick between the daytime events and the nighttime events, the rides will open back up. And know that when the rides open up, not every single ride or coaster is going to be available for patrons to use. Only a few select rides are going to be available for people to load on and enjoy the ride. If you are going to be riding the rides at night, you should know that the lines are going to be pretty long comparatively to how they were during the daytime. Tip number 4 is to know that the park is going to be segmented off to the public. So even though you have a ticket, that doesn't mean that the places in the park that were open during the daytime are going to stay open at night. So you will see guardrails and barriers that are essentially going to direct you to a certain path. And that's because of safety, but also to help coordinate with those scare tactic areas. Tip number 5 is going to be the fact that not all of the food restaurants are going to be open. While there are going to be special Halloween restaurants and bars that are open for the adults to enjoy, not everything is going to be open for food. So we found it a little bit more difficult to find food when the actual Halloween event was taking place. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, me being silly. I do want to state that this isn't an actual lightsaber. This is my LED tube light that I use in the background for most of my videos. So I'm shocked that this thing is so strong because when I was swinging this thing around, it actually kind of hit my desk and other things around the office. And I'm actually really impressed that it's still working. Anyways, if you found this video helpful, I hope that you would find it in your heart to like and subscribe and share this with your friends who are wanting to go to a Halloween event at SeaWorld, or maybe share it with your family because you can't make it to Halloween at SeaWorld. So again, hit that like and subscribe button. And then if you're curious to know what SeaWorld is like with a Know Before You Go video, I've also made that video in the description box below. So hit that like and subscribe, find that video for SeaWorld during the daytime, and then I'll see you in the next video.